Hey, what's going on? This is Rad, your host for SOFREP Radio. Insert all the cool sound effects right there, Callum.
Brute force. If it doesn't work, you're just not using enough. You're listening to SOFREP Radio, special operations military news, and straight talk with the guys in the community.
That's my producer, Callum, in the background. He's going to take care of all the editing and everything, and I want to say thanks to him right up front because he's the man. And then second, I want to talk about the merch store. Okay, so sofrep.com/merch, or it might look like store.sofrep.com. So whatever Callum wants to put on that screen right there that you can click on or down below, please check out the merch store. Please continue to buy our merch. We really appreciate it. It really keeps the gas place lit, and I am thankful for all your support to the merch movement. Okay, and don't forget to tag us with a hashtag at SOFREP Mafia for social media. Number 2, the book club. sofrep.com/book-club. So if you want to read and learn and grow your mind and go to the gym for your mind, read a book. And you can do that through the SOFREP Book Club, curated by the special operators behind the scenes here at SOFREP for you. Okay, so please check out the book club. It's a big, passionate movement of ours. Every year here at SOFREP, around Veterans Day, we are humbly reminded about those who have gone off to serve our nation and defend our allies abroad. And some of those folks are near and dear to our own hearts. And I'd like to give a shout out to my own father, who has passed away, John Radel, who served in the United States Navy as a radio operator during Vietnam and then crossed over into the United States Special Forces. And the Navy Federal Credit Union celebrates veterans of all branches and their families on Veterans Day and every day of the year. Their legacy is built on commitment and understanding, and they've proudly served the military community for over 90 years. This November, they are partnering with Travis Manion Foundation's Veterans Day of Service campaign, connecting veterans and families of the fallen with local volunteer opportunities. If you want to be a part of a financial institution that is dedicated to supporting veterans and their families, you can become a member today at NavyFederal.org/veterans. And to all veterans, happy Veterans Day. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA. Now, my guest. This is going to be a very cool conversation. I don't know how cool I could talk about war as, but Ukraine has been, under the pressure from Russia to give up its resources and its assets and its people along the way. And the gentleman that I have today to speak about that and on behalf of that is Benjamin Goldhagen. Welcome to the show, Benjamin.
Hey, Raz. I love your show, and it's really great to be talking to you, and also to the people who watch your show, because I think they have a better idea of life, and I never knew that before I went to Ukraine, than most people in civilian life. It's the same all over.
That's very kind of you to start the show off with saying those nice words. I'm grateful, and I'm stoked to have you. And I know you've been on the front lines, like in the very beginning. I'm going to dive into your bio real quick, Ben, and just let our listener hear a little bit about you, and then we'll crack you open like an egg, okay? So stand by.
You can give it your best crack.
Here we go. I'm pretty good. Okay, so if you want to find out more about Benjamin, you can go to heartcastmedia.com/Benjamin-Goldhagen. I'm just going to tell you that. And Benjamin Goldhagen is a committed human rights advocate and expert on Ukraine, deeply immersed in the region's geopolitical dynamics and humanitarian challenges. As the son of a Holocaust survivor, Benjamin's personal history fuels his unwavering dedication to preventing atrocities and promoting human dignity. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Benjamin swiftly moved to the front lines, providing critical insights and first-hand documentation of the conflict. His works highlight the resilience and spirit of the Ukrainian people as they navigate the complexities of war and resistance against eliminationist forces seeking to undermine their sovereignty and cultural identity. Benjamin collaborates extensively with Ukrainian communities, offering strategic support and advocating for policies that bolster Ukraine's fight for freedom and justice. His expertise extends to combating Russian disinformation, ensuring that truthful narratives prevail in the global discourse surrounding the conflict. There's more. Through his relentless advocacy and deep understanding of Ukraine's socio-political landscape, Benjamin Goldhagen plays a vital role in shaping international perspectives and fostering meaningful support for Ukraine's enduring struggle for peace and human rights. Okay, now let's welcome again Benjamin to the show.
Well, thank you. And I swear to God, I did not write that. I'm really impressed, I have to say.
You know, it's wonderful to have you on, and we could use a beacon of truth in a sea full of poop.
Yeah, well, it's a whole lot of things. I went there.
Of misinformation is what I'm trying to say, you know, of like,
Yeah.
who do we believe? Where do we go? Why? Why do we believe you?
Well, you know, because I went there because I wanted to I wanted the world to understand, because I understood before this war what happens in the information space in a conflict when there's a genocidal conflict, which is what this is. And the history of these things is that when the fighting goes on in wherever place it is, and then some of these conflicts are genocidal, and the idea is to wipe out, Russia's idea is to wipe out all Ukrainians. And I wanted to connect the dots. I went there so that people could understand that a missile strike against a hospital is more than a war crime. It's part of a systematic attempt to wipe out the people, which is what we see them doing. And we can get more into that. So that really became my mission in storytelling and filming, is to connect the dots so people understand not just that there's fighting, but what the fighting's about.
And so if I were to bring up the Steel Porcupine,
Yeah.
what would you talk about with the Steel Porcupine as a film?
Well, I started it when Donald Trump became president. I was working on a different film at the time. It's still about Ukraine, but I realized when he became president that, which was just at the beginning of this year, that there were two really critical factors that would determine what this year of war was about. And one was the geopolitical alignment, and the other was industrial competition, and that this needed to be explained in a way, in a dramatic way, and that unfortunately the fighting on the battlefield is kind of a holding pattern while the politics get sorted out, and while both sides arm up basically for the next phase of the war, which is what we're entering right now. So I turned to geopolitics because everybody, your audience they're interested in fighting, but everybody who fights knows that politics is a big factor in a war. So that's really the direction that I wanted to take. I can talk about what it's about, but that was the mentality, my mentality in making this film at this time.
The Steel Porcupine.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of like, put that out there because you did make the Steel Porcupine, and you do have an understanding of what's going on. And there's a cool photo on your bio. Let me look at that real quick here. Maybe I saw it on another piece, but it's like it shows you with a press with a full plate carrier on over, a brown, tactical jacket with, like a nice combat helmet with, ear protection. And you got your camera and you're looking like at a Russian T-10, T-something tank, some type of Soviet looking or Ukrainian tank.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what that is. And there's other press there. And so, I mean, if you could, and my listener, I know I'm not showing it right now if you're watching on YouTube, but if you were to go to heartcastmedia.com and you looked up Benjamin Goldhagen, you would see the photo. If it's interesting to you, go check that out. It's you literally in the front lines in the forests of Ukraine or wherever at that time.
Yeah, well, that particular photo that's in Bakhmut, and if you know anything about this war, if you know about this war, Bakhmut is like it's now legendary battle, which probably I think it went on for 8 months. One of the most brutal battles. That's where the Wagner Group was,
Oh yeah.
and we ended up there. We ended up there just by the story of how we got there was that I'm not really interested in filming combat per se. I'm much more interested in the soldier, in the people, and not in how you shoot a gun. It's who shoots the gun. And so the first film, which is To the Zero Line, and also this film is about how a whole country goes to war. And I wanted to film Christmas at the front, and this is the backstory behind that picture, and I have connection at that point. I had connections all over the country, and so I contacted the press officer of this brigade that we had contacts with, and I said, I want to film Christmas at the front. He said, we don't know where we're going to be at Christmas, but tell me 2 weeks ahead of when you want to come, and I'll tell you where we are. And so 2 weeks before I tell him we want to come, he sends me a pin. That's basically how things happen. You get you get Google on Google Maps, you get the latitude, longitude, and a time, and that's it. And I show it to my producer. I say, you want to do this? And he said, yeah, let's go. And it was Bakhmut. And this was Wagner. This was the worst of the worst period at that point. And I went just film Christmas, and so that's how we ended up there. And yeah, and it's a bad place where we film Christmas. We filmed it in a number of places, and if you see the film, it's really kind of interesting. The main place, which was the brigade headquarters at that time, soon after that was hit and destroyed, and where we stayed. We were under fire, pretty close fire a few times. One of them where we stayed at that place. It looks cool, but I'll tell you, it's pretty hairy, and we got hit. The building we were in got hit, and I lost my crew. They all went home, pretty much,
Oh wow.
and I was left there. So some of the guys in that shot didn't stay, and I ended up, and it was, and we were already filming, and the press officer said, you can't leave. And we were already on the road out because the guys had the car and the gear. And I said, look, I don't have a crew. What am I going to do? And he said, well, I have two guys. They used to work for Ukrainian network television, and they were camera guys. You can use them. And I said, well, I don't have cameras, because they're all going. And I ended up meeting one of the guys. We got new gear in Kyiv, and we went back to Bakhmut. And so what was really cool was, the picture looks cool, I guess, but what was really cool was after we went back, we had this kind of respect because, you know what it's like when you're in that kind of situation, you stay. It means something to the guys, and it meant that we really had a really close relationship. And how we.
What about the crew that left and just took off, and you stayed, and then you still continued to do this? And when you guys rallied up stateside or wherever it was, like, why'd you guys take off? Like, why didn't you stay? Why didn't you help me finish this? And do they get credit in the project for abandoning you?
I didn't try to talk. It was two of the guys stayed, the rest of them left, and I didn't try to talk them into staying because it's like it's not, people volunteer to go. You're a filmmaker, and one of the guys there said, I know why they left. One of them said, I'm not here to play roulette, and it's not, and there is so much fire going on, and it's pretty. You just have no idea. It's like there is no wire everywhere. U.S. military used to, like, there's a wire. There's like, and you have air cover, and there's like you have some
Yeah, a
idea.
proverbial wire around the base that you're leaving. It's like, oh, I'm going outside the wire. It means
Right.
like you're going outside of protection to go into the fight. But what you're saying is that the wire is non-existent in Ukraine. It is just wherever you're putting your foot, and you have to always be aware. And if you're in Bakhmut or you go to Kiev or you go to, any place that's under attack, you're risking attack anywhere.
Right.
'Cause
It's really fucked up because, like, in some places now they have, the Russians have what they call a safari, and they have drones up in the air, and they're just hitting old ladies with, walking their dog kind of thing. And so there are places that you are safer, but there's no place that's out of range. And but then if you go east, it's all just all kind. It's like anything's possible kind of thing. So like the other day, I saw like one of the supermarkets that we used to go to, that's in the east, that was blown up. The apartment that we were in at that in when the guys took off, that was hit. Where we filmed Christmas, that doesn't exist anymore, and that's in the first film. We showed Christmas happening, and a few months later, we showed the building like in rubble. And so it's really and that's just the atmosphere of this war, and that's also what the Russians are doing. The Russians are really, talk about war crimes. They're hitting everything that hospitals, children's centers, you
Grandma
name
with the
it.
dog. Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
like
the
really,
dog.
she's just yeah.
It's
I mean,
they're
I'm not
killing-
laughing about it. I'm just like, I'm in disbelief about it. Like, I can't believe that we've let things go so far over this political boxing match while, with no timeouts and, no nothing. And there's no one in there saying, ceasefire, ceasefire. It's like, you have, the president of Ukraine right now, Zelensky, is looking for reinforcements and, support to do his job. And you've got the real aggressor shooting down commercial civilian airliners in 2012, 2014 over Crimea. You've got the guys that are shooting down civilians, and he is running Russia, okay? And they're wanting Crimea, so what? They can get the oil and capture all the resources? I mean, can you explain to my listener why Russia is so hard for Ukraine when Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons in in 1994? They gave up, their weapons and said, we want our own sovereign nation. Can you explain why Russia has renegotiated in their own mind this term of agreement that the world also collectively agreed on?
Yeah, well, what it basically comes down to is that the Russian / Soviet, because this started before, a long time ago, it has been for about 100 years to wipe out the Ukrainian people as a nation, as a group of people. The Ukrainians have an identity of their own. They have their own language, their own, it's Ukrainian. Their religion is not the Russian Orthodox Church. They have their own heritage. And that goes counter to what the Soviets / Russians want. And so their project for a long time has been and they've tried every couple of decades, they try to wipe out these people. And so 100 years ago, there was the Holodomor, which was a forced famine, which killed maybe 2 to 4 million Ukrainians. And this just continues, and this is the latest bout, if you want to see it. And if you want to see it that way, and the idea that they have now is to finish them off once and for all. And that's why that's why the Ukrainians, they know this, and they're not going to give up. They're not going to just say, okay, because what you're talking about in giving up the nuclear weapons and trying to make peace with the Russians in a way was a good faith effort. But the Russians were using it basically to weaken the Ukrainians so that they could eventually do this. And so this was all in a sense shaping the battlefield. Now the West didn't think of it this way, but Russia did, and this is sort of what's going on. And So now it's like the gloves are off. They're not fooling around anymore, the Russians, and they're just saying, "We'll hit you. We're going to. When we took Bucha, we killed we did a mass murder. We're hitting every hospital we can. We're stealing children, literally stealing children from the areas that they take. They take the children and they deport them into Russia because they want to cut off the next generation. And you do that by taking the children. That way you can get rid of the people, the nation, if they don't have any children. And so they take them and they ban Russian, they ban Ukrainian, they teach them Russian. And then now they're putting uniforms on them and sending them to fight the Ukrainians.
Re-educating them, making them, think that this is the way it is. And I think if I can say this, and it happens here in the U.S. as well, is propaganda is heavy, right?
Yeah.
Our own American government puts out propaganda to its people, and we hopefully try to sift through that as Americans and the world, seeing whatever propaganda comes out of here. But in Russia, the propaganda is very, very thick and very, very real, and they don't really have means to all of the, I believe, like outlets that we have here in the U.S., and in a freer world, which is getting more and more stricter these days, with freedom of press and being able to put politicians on their heels and say, hey, why are you doing this? And why are you doing this? And why are you doing this? And trying to get to the bottom and root of why are you playing political games? And it's like, oh, your questions are stupid, or you're rude, or you're not a trusted source, or you're not good. Only what I say out of my mouth is good.
Yeah, well, over there, what happens if you speak up, you can be put in jail.
Correct.
You can drink some tea, and that's the last cup you'll ever have. Or you can go out a window, and that's what that's what happens over there. And we're talking about Russia. And
yeah, exactly. Well, look at Navalny, right? That was a threat to Putin as an opposition, and he gulagged him, poisoned him, gulagged him. It's the same thing with a band called Pussy Riot, and they're a band that wears masks, and they were singing and they were saying a prayer against Putin in public in Russia, and they got put into the gulag just for voicing opposition.
And so they are on a mission. Yeah, both internally inside Russia, and then with the West. And Ukraine is right now their battlefront. But I don't need to go into too much about what some people think if they were to win Ukraine, which they're not going to win Ukraine, what their next target would be, because they did Chechnya, they are trying to undermine Georgia, and also they're fucking with the West. They're cutting our cables under the Black Sea, under the Baltic, and doing all kinds of stuff, which I think, under the cover. I think this is really going. I don't want to go into total conspiracy kind of stuff, but towards the beginning of this conflict, there was the continental pipeline in the U.S. If you remember, there was a sabotage. It was a cyber attack of the major pipeline on the East Coast, and we were out. What do you call it? Our gas stations were out of fuel for a few days. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. I remember a lot of this, and I'm not trying to get into conspiracies either. I'm trying to get to, let my listener know, hey, this is something serious going on in Ukraine. Some of my listeners have been in Ukraine, in the trenches, right? People I've interviewed have said that, they went in and they were told that if they're going to embed, they have to wear some kind of camouflage, and, if they're going to embed with them in the trenches, and off they go, and bringing back, insights to me that other people I don't think are ready to hear. Let me just say this, Benjamin. If a supersonic missile just blew up my car wash while I'm getting gas here in Utah, are we ready for that? Because in Kiev and in Ukraine, that's what's happening. All of a sudden, just a super streaking contrail going over somebody's sky and then blowing something random up like a park or some type of a place, something that you're going to go eat or you're outside having a good time. I don't think that we as the U.S. citizens are ready for that kind of warfare. I don't think Kiev wants it. But now Kiev's getting Rubik's cubed into this tougher, we have to battle now.
Yeah, well, because it's this existential fight, the Ukrainians are not giving up. They know that if they don't fight, this is sort of like this is like the U.S. Fight for independence in 1776. But instead of King George, just we decide that we want freedom. That's what they want. Also, they in response, they are under threat of being completely wiped out. And so they are going to fight with their bare hands. As you know, if you watch The Steel Porcupine, which is my latest film, John Ratcliffe, the head of the CIA, he says in Congress, he says that the Ukrainians will fight with their bare hands if they have to, because basically if they don't do everything they can to win, and they will win one way or another. They're not going to lose, put it that way. The Russians are totally set on wiping out every hospital, every school, every child they'll abduct or take away, and kill as many people as they can. You know, the death toll in this war is just horrific on both sides, and but surrender means death.
Right.
So there is, as Churchill said, there's I forget the quote exactly, but there basically is no choice except victory.
Yeah, there's no other way out except like up. It's like there's no other way. You got to go through this. You got to do. And sadly, I'm not like lecturing anybody. I'm just saying it's kind of appalling to sit back here and be able to do the things that we do on a daily basis, knowing that the war's going on. And I get people that tell me, well, why don't you go do something about it? Why don't you go over there? Why don't you go do something about it? I'm just like, man, that's the attitude. It's like, okay, are you ready really to have something just blown up while we're sitting here having this conversation?
But the way to follow what you're saying, it's sort of like, because now there's talk about about giving up some territory. What would happen if a country came and took Florida? Like
Right.
they just invaded and took Florida. And we say, oh, you know what? You got Florida last week. That's okay. It's yours now. We don't want it anymore. I mean, we would go over there and we would do everything we could, and we would take Florida back. That's exactly what's going on. And if they don't, and if you let them take Florida, well, what's next? Texas?
Dude, look how we fought over the islands in Iwo Jima. Look at the little black rocks of island that we fought and died on to raise a flag just because there was no value there, and let alone if somebody came in to take sovereign land from us, what would that type of thing look into? It's like, I could only imagine.
And that's in a way what I want the administration now here to understand what really is going on, and that the Ukrainians are not going to stop just because somebody wants them to stop. There is only one way for them, and that's to survive. And it's very noble because they're fighting. Some of them are fighting to the death, and they are doing a great job. The innovation, going to how they're doing it. They have no air force, but they create an air force with drones. Mm-hmm. It's like they went to the West. They said, give us planes. No planes. Sorry, you out of luck. So they said, okay, fuck it. We're going to take these Chinese drones off the shelf, and we're going to put weapons on them. And then now it's just morphed and become a true air force in a lot of ways. That is just surprised the world. They've knocked out. They have no navy, but they've knocked out
Navy.
They've knocked out the good part of the Black Sea Fleet. They're the only country that has destroyed a Russian submarine after World War II. They did it in a dry dock. The thing was in dry dock, so they hit it. I mean, these guys are smart. The Ukrainians are really, really,
right. And I don't think really, they want all the death. You see Ukrainian, like Zelensky and the cabinet and all the people fighting, they are, like you said, in a self-defense mode. Okay. Yeah. And if that means that now, in order to stop them from attacking them, they got to go deep and strike a nuclear, or a submarine or something, some factory that is producing the things that are killing them, then all at it, dude. Because like when I was growing up, my dad taught me, if you're ever in a fight, there's no fair fight. It's like you shove a thumb, you grab something, you stick it there, whatever it is. There's no rules in a fight because, again, like you said, to your hand's last breath, you defend yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There is a caveat to that, is that they are fighting according to the laws of war.
Correct.
They're not hitting civilians. They are fighting against the military of the other side, or the logistics of the other side, and they're not hitting hospitals. They're not killing people. They are taking prisoners and treating them well. I mean, when you look at the prisoner exchange, they are treating prisoners and feeding them as they do their own troops. Some of the Russians, when they get captured, they're actually pretty happy because
they're getting fed.
They're not going to die, and they get fed better and treated better than on the Russian side.
And I hear that all the Russians are defecting to Ukraine. So that's great. So keep doing that, Russia. Go ahead, just defect.
Yeah, it'll be good to have more surrenders. It makes
just surrender. You want some propaganda? Surrender, Russia. Just surrender. Just give it up.
They're not exactly at that point yet because they die too quick. They get killed. They're being put into the grinder, the meat grinder. By everyone's estimate, it's about 1,500 right now. Currently, about 1,500 men a day are being killed that are Russian or on the Russian side. And they're running out of, they've gone around the world. This is total insanity.
Bro, and North Korea is involved. Okay, you've got Chinese soldiers involved. You've got.
So they've told some of the North Koreans that to go over to Ukraine because the South Koreans are fighting for Ukraine.
Right.
This is how fucked the whole thing is.
It's propaganda.
And so with Wagner, Wagner Group was it was composed of prisoners, ex-prisoners, and Wagner went around to prisons in Russia and said, hey, if you want to get out of prison, you come fight with me. And that was the deal. And they would come and they would die. And then they went to other countries, the bad boys, and they took prisoners from their countries to fight. Now, all those guys are dead. So then that's when they went to North Koreans, because they ran out of prisoners. Now now the North Koreans say, hey, this is too fucked. We're just getting killed here. So now supposedly they're in the rear. And
let's remember, North Korea is not just sending people for free. Yeah. Right? It's not just like, oh, hey, this is a good war and we're obligated, through our treaties to fight together. No, they're getting something for every single one of those deaths in resources, survivability for their regime, and all of that kind of stuff from, Russia and their comrades.
Yeah. So this basically is a madman. When we're making the film, when we make our film, sometimes we play Austin Powers because. With Dr. Evil,
Exactly, dude. $1 million.
And he has the table, the round table, and like the guy with the eye patch. And this is exactly how it is. They've got Iran, China, North Korea, and like every once in a while, there's somebody who who pisses off Dr. Evil, and the trap door opens and the guy drops down.
And just drops.
And so like we play that a lot because, or it's like. It's like, hey, check it out. And because that really is the mentality here. This is true evil. And what we should do, we should get, this is the advocacy part. We need to help the Ukrainians to victory. At this point, Russia can't win this war. They've been going for 4 years. They've gotten almost no land, and they've lost, they have over 1 million casualties. And if we had gone in earlier with the weapons that they need, to supply them, not boots on the ground. It would have put an end to it earlier, and by delaying basically the aid that they need, and it's not in money necessarily. A lot of it is surplus weaponry. You just need the right tool at the right time, and we just don't give it to them.
See, and I think a lot of us here stateside in the U.S. and around here, we just sent $10 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And they're thinking check cut to $10 billion, they cash it and they're going to go spend it on their own fashion. However, when you're talking about government contracts getting bid on for MRAPs, which are like, up armored, transportation vehicles for our soldiers. They come in at like, let's say $500,000 to $1 million to build, okay, from the contractor. And then that gets sold to the American people's taxpayer dollars, and that goes to war. Well, we have a surplus of those. And so they're going to say, okay, well, let's give some of that over to Ukraine to help them because there's some assets. It's not cash. It's like an asset. Like when they're asking for Tomahawk missiles at $1 million a pop, they're going to say, okay, we give them 40 Tomahawks. That means we gave them $40 million. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not really $40 million because we all know government contracts are totally inflated to jack the taxpayer of their dollar because it's a government contract. So in essence, a Tomahawk missile might cost maybe $250,000, but it's sold to the American government at $1 million, and then they now have this $1 million machine or this weapon to send, and then they say, here's $1 billion worth of goods, and everyone's like, oh, we need to keep our money here. And really, it's just defensive equipment. It's Patriot missile systems. It's different things that have just these high price tags that aren't really that price.
Now, when it comes to accounting, a lot of it is creative accounting. I'm not an expert in that area.
I'm not either. I'm just a backyard. I'm just a yapper.
Yeah, but there are guys who figured it out, and it's not like dollars spent here. Like it's not like going to buying new stuff and sending it. Where some of it is, a lot of it is decommissioned stuff or
Correct.
stuff that will be
Demilitarized. Yeah.
But Trump, I have to give Trump some credit for which always puts me in trouble when I say give Trump any credit, or if I say anything on political in any way, half the people in the world hate me. But and I'm for anybody, Democrat or Republican, who want to help Ukraine. But he got the Europeans to pay now for the weapons, and so it's helping U.S. trade to and the deal is now that the Europeans provide the weapons to Ukraine and then backfill their inventory with new contracts with the United States. And so it's actually to the U.S. advantage right now, to economic advantage, that this war is working out pretty well now for the U.S. from that standpoint, but also from the standpoint of, beside being the right thing to do, and there are a lot of places to do the right thing, this continuing is destabilizing so many arenas, and it's making us look worse with China too, that we can't, peace through strength, we're not showing it. We should help the Europeans, help Ukraine finish this thing off, and not with boots on the ground. Ukrainians want to fight. They just, they came up with a drone air force because no one would help them out. If we just gave them what they need, then they wouldn't have to figure all this shit out, and it would have been over already. So,
so to go back to 2014, when Crimea was definitely being, trying to be annexed, right? And, Obama was in office, President Obama, and they shot down the civilian airliner. He kind of took a step in that direction of sending our boots on the ground. A lot of folks don't realize that the Green Berets and Special Forces were sent over immediately to work with all of the Ukrainian Special Forces in that lane to be ready for what we're dealing with today. And so, his insight into like, okay, we can't let this happen. The way he would stare down Putin face to face, it was never like, hey, buddy, old pal. It was just like, man, you're a criminal, and I'm staring at you in the face of a criminal. And now it's like, oh, handshake, roll out the red carpet, let this guy tap dance on our soil, and show him all of our air power and all these different things. It's like such a difference in like situational awareness with what's really going on.
Well, I don't want to get too much into the current negotiation with that sort of thing but I think President Trump has taken a long journey from where he started when he became president in addressing the war to where he is now. And I really don't know where he is now exactly. But
well, he was in it in the beginning too. Like this is his second swing at the situation.
Yeah.
There was a whole 4 years in between where it was kind of like trying to get stopped as well. And even President Biden could have sent Tomahawks and all these different things to Ukraine at the same time. But I'm getting at is we kind of spend our special forces are the best in the world, and they go over there and they help these guys and they teach these guys how to defend themselves, and they implement that to themselves. And, special forces guys, our number one export in America, do you know what it is? Some people might say, oh, oil, Rad, or maybe like fabric. No, it's our military. Yeah. Our number one export in the United States of America is outsourcing our military. We ship our military all over the world for conflict to all these different places with all of our weaponry. So like you said, it keeps the economy going. Our economy is sending our number one resource, which is our military, our men and women who fight and raise their hand to be a part of America and defend it.
Yeah, well, I right now the Ukrainians, what the Ukrainians want, they don't want boots. They just want a few tools.
Sure.
And if we give them, and if it's not even give them tools, the Europeans will pay for it now. They'll pay for the tools. We just need to give them the tools. It's like, anybody in battle, if you have the right weapon, even if you have the wrong weapon, but it's good enough, that's what you want. But if you're in the fight and you can only stand off your opposition, that kind of sucks, but you're willing, yet you're going to have to do it for as long as you can. Mm-hmm. And and we could just help them go over. But I think, recently I started looking into World War One a little bit, because people have compared the positional warfare of this war with World War One, because for 3 years, pretty much, the lines didn't change very much in World War One. And then all of a sudden, everything changed. And I think that could happen, because you mentioned Crimea. Some people think, military people think that there can be a breakthrough coming up by basically a major change in how things are operating. One is, if we gave them the weapons, then it would happen. But what happened in World War I was the Battle of Amiens, which was the first major combined arms battle. And until then, they were all in trenches. And it was the first time that everything was put together as we know it: air power, tanks, infantry. And it was the breakthrough that the Australians and British made through the German lines, that in 100 days the war was finished. And because they couldn't, the Germans said it was the worst day of the war was the beginning of that battle. And it's possible that Ukraine, and so the people who say, oh yeah, it's been a positional war, it's always this way, it's never going to change. Well, all they need to do is look at World War One and say everything changed on that basically on that field. And that Amiens was fought over for a very long time, for months and months, until it was an Australian general, I think it was Monash, who came up with this concept to apply, and that just changed the war. So I think in many military, I'm not a military guy, but many really smart military guys, like Ben Hodges, who U.S., or Mick Ryan, who Australian, who really understand battle and understand war, that there is a way for Ukraine to break through and change the nature of this war, if we give them the help, or B, if when they have enough time to do what they might do with Crimea, which some people think. I won't go into the battle aspects because that's not my thing, but it doesn't have to stay this way. And right now, also recently, Ukraine has been attriting the logistical lines and also the petrochemicals of Russia, that they're now at 30% of their, they've lost maybe 30% of their petrochemical business. And they're basically, instead of waiting for the US and Europe to apply economic sanctions, they're doing it themselves by, daily missile strikes on and drone strikes on in the back on the refineries and the terminals. So the war is changing. And so anybody who says right now, some people, unless you follow it really closely, you don't have an idea. It's like any war, it's like anything in life, basically. Unless you really understand what's happening on the ground, you just don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
And that has to do with some of our politicians also.
And would you say that, making such a film and continue to do this mission that you're involved with bringing
Yeah.
Ukraine to light and talking about it, that there is a lot of disinformation, even from our politicians and even from all sides of it? Like, how do you kind of steer that and navigate that while you're producing these films?
Well, I feel I have a pretty good sense of what I had an idea what this war was on what the full scale invasion was at the beginning, because I understood, I believe, the war aims. You have to start with what is the war aim of the adversary, and what are your terms of victory? Something so basic is what's Russia trying to achieve? You always need to know what the enemy is up to, what and in order to understand what the situation is. What goes on with the misinformation, or a lot of people, is they follow battles in a sense, or they follow an attack, but they don't understand the big picture. So what I try to do in the Steel Porcupine is I create the big picture for people. What the war aim of Russia is for a long time, which has been to have Ukraine without Ukrainians. What the Ukrainian response is, which is their spirit, is to fight and to prevail, and what the international response is, and what it has been, because it fucked up a few times, like you mentioned, the Budapest, or the nuclear
The
the
proliferation of the
Minsk
nuclear
agreement.
arms in '94.
Yeah, the Minsk agreement, and in the film, uh, Bill Clinton is later interviewed years later saying he regrets having forced the hand of the Ukrainian president at the time to give up the nukes, because he said, and Putin wouldn't have pulled this stunt, his words, Bill Clinton's word, pulled this stunt if they didn't give up their nukes. So we haven't really understood the aim of the adversary, and so that was the purpose of this film, is to define what the war aim is, so then when you see an event or you hear misinformation or whatever it is, then you can put it into a box and you can say, oh, this is bullshit, because they're saying, oh, for example, they steal children. I mean, they really are stealing a lot of children. 35,000 is the number right now that some people believe. And you say, well, why are they doing that? Well, they like children. Is that why they're doing it? They need more kids around. Why are they doing it? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to answer the question why, and put it in the perspective of the big picture. And so that's my, and to do it
It's a city of kids. Some cities that are incorporated in the United States of America have less than 1,000 people living in them. This is a 35,000 person city of kids gone,
Yeah.
snatched,
Yeah.
gone, wiped out, put somewhere, put back into a uniform, re-educated, killed, whatever the case is.
Yeah, so some of the kids, because this started in 2014, some of the kids grew up. Basically now they're reaching adolescence, and some, or even however the war is 4 years old, and so so at first it became this re-education program. You're not allowed to speak Ukrainian. You have to become Russian, because, and then they identify. You bring up a kid who's Russian. You can bring him up as anything. Your parents influence you. Well, that's how it works. But the problem now is that the big problem is that they and so part of their school. I'll tell you, part of their school now is to learn military things, and some of the schoolyards have trenches. For what kind of school has a trench, right? But not just a regular trench, not like a straight trench with like different turns. It's like a certain zigzag, and a certain kind of zigzag in a certain way, which is characteristic of the trenches now in the Donbass, uh, because of drone strikes. So if they were straight trenches, the drone can just go straight down the trench. But so they have a lot of turns in these trenches. And then if there's, this is go back to World War I. So if there is an explosion also in one part of the trench, it's not going to travel down. But and so some of these schools that where these kids have been stolen to, and now they're being educated, so called, and they're taught military things, and like the playground, if you want to think of it as a playground, is really a training ground, and and now they're being sent to fight, and they die that way. It's really a horror story.
You know, I've seen some video footage of kids in what they say is like a Russian school setting, and what they're doing is they're disassembling the AK in like 37 seconds and
Yeah.
reassembling it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this footage has gotten out, and the girl, she can just like do it with one arm. Now, why would you learn to dismantle and reassemble anything with just one arm? It's in case you don't have your other arm, you see? And why would you not have your other arm? You know, it's like, what's the preparation of that? Okay. So it's like, you know, seeing that and just knowing that that's existing, you know, and now here in the US, they're wanting to like have that same type of, I don't know. You know, I mean, deer hunter safety class is what I went through as a kid, you know, hunter safety, if I'm going to go shoot a gun, you know, et cetera. It's like, you know, and I grew up different. My dad was a Green Beret. So I grew up in that same kind of environment of dismantling and seeing all that equipment, being in an armory all day. And you want to know what's funny? Let me just say this. I'm going to say this. My dad's office was in a junior high school with his entire team. So the junior high is where I went to school, but I would just walk out of class and go to my dad's office next door, which was at the school. So, you know, we use the school as well, you know, in the U.S. to protect our valued assets like SF teams, you know, and, you know, we're no different than what they're doing, I guess. I don't know, man. This is just like...
Well, it's kind of different.
And what I'm saying is the difference is like, you know, they're stealing the kids. We're not stolen. They're putting the kids from Ukraine in these schools. We're just going to school, normal days, school. You know, we don't think twice about the fallout shelter below in the school.
Well, I think there's a difference between offense and defense.
Yeah, well, I agree. I guess I'm just kind of frustrated, and maybe I just am just a regular American also frustrated, you know? It's like, why can we not just, you know, have peace in Ukraine? Why did they have to get rid of all their nukes, and did they? That's my question.
Yeah,
did they
I think
really?
they did. I mean, it really...
So if you have 27 nukes...
What we want is Russia has to be, it's basically the evil empire. The Iranians, the Chinese half and half, depends how you look at them. And, you know, Trump, once you let these guys do bad stuff, they just keep doing bad stuff.
Right.
You know, it's like, and that's real. And so beside being the right thing for Ukraine, it's the right thing for the United States, because you have to show strength, again, especially for Europe, to show strength against the oppressor, because, you know, there are other countries involved also. And then, as I mentioned, the fuckery isn't just kinetic. It's also in cyber, in all different kinds of ways that are really nefarious to our way of life. That we want to have a good life here, but to have a good life here, we have to make sure that our adversary is not trying to undermine it. And, you know, we found that out with, you know, 9/11, you know, what the bad guys can want to do to us. And the bad guys are all united. You know, let's not, you know, I probably shouldn't, this is where Ukraine goes into the rest of the world. The bad guys are all united, and I'm not saying we go fight everywhere, but we have to be pretty savvy. And you know,
we do fight everywhere. America does get its hands in a lot of conflicts. Like I said, our number one exported resource is our Joes with the equipment, you know, and sadly, yeah, and I was just gonna say, yeah, Josephines, you know, 100%, you know, boy, wow, dude, I can't believe we've been talking for an hour about this, because there's like so much more that we could just go back and forth on. I'm just like, first of all, there's so many questions in my mind of Ukraine, but I think I know where I stand. I stand with Ukraine personally, you know, even as a journalist and as someone who runs a podcast. I don't think Ukraine wants the bloodbath of a nuclear war. I don't think Ukraine wants to have to decimate an entire city to say, leave us alone. I think they should just be left alone And yet, the pipeline that goes from, the sea through Crimea into Europe, those things are what's all being fought over, and the resources in the area. Again, and what do we know Ukraine as? Okay, the blue on the Ukraine flag is for the sky,
right.
and then the yellow in the Ukraine flag is for the wheat, yeah. and the bread and the wheat that they grow. So those are that's their flag, right? So that's how important it is, and that's not Russia's flag, right? Russia doesn't have that. They don't have the bread basket. They want Ukraine. They want all of those resources and everything, including that pipeline, it seems like, that goes into Europe to like cut that off, like fuel, oil, whatever.
Yeah, well, the Ukrainians want to, basically, the Ukrainian people, they want what we want in the West. They want freedom. They
Right.
want to live like just free people, free enterprise, have a good life, and they were doing that before, to the most part, before 3 years ago, 3.5, almost 4 years ago, before they were attacked. Before, someone tried to take more of Florida, if you want to.
Well, even 2014. Let's go back to when, Putin really kicked off the whole invasion, right?
And
the aggressor here.
They want to live. They just want to live in peace and have a prosperous country and be part of the West and be part of the EU. And that's what we want for ourselves. We want to have the freedom to be who we are and live the life we want to live. And it's really just very, very basic on that regard. But at the same time, they don't want to. They are at risk of getting wiped out.
Yes.
So on the one hand, they're moving towards freedom, and on the other hand, the Russians are trying to wipe them out. So this is really probably, if it's done right, this is going to be the last battle, and they'll succeed at that, and have a country, and have freedom, and become a part of Europe in a way that the rest of Europe is right now, probably even better than the rest of Europe. It's a lot like, but speaking to American audiences, a lot of people don't know other countries that well, but Poland is a really great example of a country that was part of the Soviet Union and modernized, and now it's just a really fantastic country. Their roads, let me tell you something, their roads in Poland are better than our roads in the U.S. I've been, all around Poland, all around the U.S. We have potholes everywhere. They don't have potholes everywhere. They have great. What's really great is that they have these. It's like gas stations, but they're like super. They're much better than 7-Elevens on the road, where they have like hot food, and it's like everybody stops at it and has a great meal. And this is in Poland, but also Ukraine has those too. And it's something that Italy has them. We can really upgrade some of the stuff that we do here, in some ways, if we just looked at other countries a little bit better, and get the good stuff and see the good stuff that other countries are doing. A lot of our people, we're very proud people, but sometimes there are things that we can learn from the rest of the world that would make us even better.
I love that. And we should always look to our neighbors to see how it's going over there. And, oh, hey, cool, you guys have this going on. Well, maybe we can adopt some of that in our business practices. I mean, I do love a global economy. I don't want to be just a one sect economy just focused on ourselves. I like a world economy. I want to eat food from other places that can come to the U.S. I don't want to pay high tariffs. I don't want to have all this type of stuff over here. And, here's me complaining about that. And in Ukraine, all they want to do is just be free, just be left alone, just live their life, go to the park with their kids, walk their dog with their grandma, and not have some hypersonic missile fly over their head. And then we hear in the news 5 people killed.
I've been building. I think I mentioned already that one place I was in was hit. When we film, it's dangerous because whenever there's outgoing, you can count on incoming. Return fire, and so that's an interesting experience because we were filming this piece of artillery, firing. And it's not. There's not training fire. This is the real thing. This is combat, and then I didn't even see it, but almost instantly, Lancet, which it's it's a loitering drone, came at us and was shot down by a manpad. And it was like everyone's really happy. I just heard I heard one more explosion. There's just so many explosions. You can't tell which is which a lot of times. And it was like, wow, they got it. It's like, what did they get? It's like the thing coming at us. And that was, and so we had filming, going back to the filming in these places, it's not easy. I can say that. And
Yeah.
but in order to tell the story, in order for to really get the life of people, you have to be out there with them. You just have to be out there with them, and you have to. My life is on the line. I have to trust them, and their life is on the line. That I don't fuck them up.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of journalists I don't know if you're gonna edit this. Are you gonna edit this?
No, we're straight throwing
Okay.
it up raw. This is great.
But a lot of because we should to your folks. A lot of times when a journalist shows up, because technically I'm a filmmaker, but I have press credentials, and you're a journalist.
Me too.
That's what your credentials say. And generally speaking, soldiers don't like journalists. The
Yeah.
rank and file. It's like, what the fuck is this guy here for? It's like he's just here, and there's like some animosity because like it's really really hairy in a lot of places. Like this guy is just here to make a buck on my, basically me taking a risk, and he's going to make some money on it. And people have said that to me. It's like, what the fuck are you doing here? You just want, you just want to basically
Right.
take advantage of our hell, kind of thing. And so there's a lot. So it takes a lot, it takes a lot to get trust in these kinds of situations when you're with guys a lot.
Hmm.
And I remember that Sebastian Younger, I saw him speak once, and he and Harrington was his partner who was killed in Libya later. Um, they when they did Restrepo, which I think is a great film.
Yes.
They
Saw it.
were hit and they were injured and they were evac and then they came back. They went back to Restrepo where they were filming, and they said it, and everything changed after that because then the guys saw that they were one of them, and I kind of had that experience myself, and I thought of that when after we were hit, and my crew left, and they took off, and a couple of us stayed, three of us stayed, and one of the guys said, he said the same thing. He said, you came back, so we respect you because
Yeah.
we respect you, and that created more intimacy. And when you see what we've done in the Zero Line, that created a lot of trust and a lot of intimacy, because they knew I wasn't just there to basically do war porn, if you, and that and one guy said to me, the press officer said to me of that unit of that brigade, he said, everybody comes here to film combat, but you came here to film us.
Yeah.
And
That's nice.
that was really that I never thought of it quite so clearly, but when he said it, that was really my intention. And um and so so it took me a long time. I didn't know anybody going into Ukraine starting out, and not a single person in Ukraine. But I wanted to tell the story, and now I've been doing it for about 4 years now. Almost, it'll be coming up because of the anniversary. And at this point, I'm pretty well, and it's pretty well understood by a lot of people that I either deal with or need to deal with what my intentions are, and that I'm in it for the long run. I'm in
Yeah.
it to tell the whole story, and to tell it properly. And you just talk about misinformation, to tell the truth. And for that reason, I have a lot of doors open to me. So, like for example, in our films, from the mayor of Lviv to people in their homes, we filmed the whole cycle of life, uh, a birth, birth in a hospital, uh, death,
Yeah.
death on the front line, death, it funerals, uh, boyfriends, girlfriends, and because that's really what we talk a lot about war, but war is about people. And as John Spencer, I like to quote him, not quote him exactly. He's head of Urban Warfare Institute or whatever at West Point, and he's written a lot on the importance of the home front to the front line. And the home front has to stay strong in order for the front line to stay strong.
Yeah.
And that was a disaster for us in Vietnam because the guys who were fighting didn't feel that the home front was there for them. And so in Ukraine, the home front and the front line are very much working together and support each other. And that's what I show in my films also is how that basically how the whole country is operating that way. And when you see it, so kind of like we've talked for a long time, but now we're kind of back to the film kind of thing. So when you see the truth of the country, because I don't have narration in my films. It's really what's in front of the camera kind of thing. A lot of verite. People do talk to the camera, but there is no trying to explain. There isn't like my voice or some actor's voice or somebody's voice trying to guide you through life. We just film enough things and put them together in such a way that you can come to your own conclusions.
Yeah. No, and I love it, and I love it. And the Steel Porcupine, and that's a film that you put out there, and then also the did I not mention your Zero line?
To the
You
zero
know what I
line,
mean?
yeah.
To the Zero line, Brave Hearts in Dark Hours. You can go to www.tothezeroline.com to check that out. And Benjamin, I think that you've been a wonderful person on the show to just invite back in the future. If you have any other insights on Ukraine, or you want to come on the show and discuss more about anything to do with this lane or your experiences, I think that you're just a welcome addition onto the show. And I just want to say thanks to Molly for linking us up together and having you come on. As soon as we saw your bio, my producer's like, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I like your show. I like your show. I've been I've been watching a lot of the episodes, and I like the guys just talk. It's very casual, and people talk and really. It's like just guys and girls, but you don't have that many girls talking. But
Oh, let's change that. Just comment down below, okay? Hey, you want to get on the show? Pashtana just was on the show. She's like a princess of the Northern Alliance who was shunned off to Pakistan. It's like I had her on, and Benet was on, a former Marine major who helps with veterans. We love our ladies. They are the most powerful people in this world. I love my guys. You're the also second most powerful people in this world. So you can pull a human being from your body.
You don't want to switch that order, or you get into a lot of trouble.
I love my wife. I love it. 26 years, successful. Okay, that's what's up. All right, let's just be clear. Yeah, and until somebody can pull a human out of themselves, I digress, dude. It's like I can't do that. I can help make the human, but I can't pull a human out of my body. My wife sure did, though, and other wives do, and other women do. And I guess I'm just, I'm a girl dad, okay? So it's like, and my mom raised me the right way, and my father, I feel that. I feel that every time I talk with people or they get into an argument, and I'm like, whoa, hey, peacemaker here, right? We all bleed the same blood.
Yeah, and so that's what I like about your show. It's really pretty, it's really pretty it's very down to earth. And
Thank you.
People, there's something about you that people feel comfortable if you have that kind of mind. If you really like, if you're gonna only be talking and talking points and slogans, and this is not the place for you.
No, I'm not. And you could tell because like when we talked before, like I'll let my listener know, you're like, hey, Rad, do you have questions? I'm like, well, I got some things in my head And once we start talking, and
I'll tell you something about that. Nate Vance is in. I never even mentioned it here. He's in the Steel Porcupine. He's J.D. Vance's cousin, and he fought in Ukraine for 3 years. And when J.D. became vice president, when he was elected, he came back because he says it in the film. He didn't want to be a potential hostage. Or
a target.
Or a target. And one of the things so when I filmed Nate, and Nate was really great. And when I filmed Nate, we spent about almost like a number of days together talking about it before we actually filmed. And he said, "Give me a script." And I said, "There's no way I'm giving you a script. It's going to sound like bullshit. I'm not going to tell you what to say. You just keep talking. You tell me, and you just tell me what you're thinking, and we'll make it look good, But I want to know you, kind of thing. And that's you have that attitude too. I think you have that attitude too, which is the only way you really get to know somebody.
Yeah, I feel like we could play Nintendo together and have this conversation, or do something like, hang out and eat some pizza and just still have this kind of conversation. I'll just say back in the day, I used to have a lot of face-to-face, before COVID, we were always doing interviews where we'd be together, and now we have this, medium where we can reach each other through, satellites and talk to each other through Zooms and Squadcasts and all of our different platforms. To have a conversation with someone we've never talked to before, and to show people that you can still have kindness with one another in a very sensitive situation, and listen to one side, and then go back and forth, just like a ping pong game. It's like,
yeah, I think some of it is that you deal with guys who have been around the military, and look, there are a lot of assholes. There's no doubt about it. Everywhere you go,
I've seen Spaceballs. I've seen the movie Spaceballs.
Yeah.
How many assholes are here, sir? Every single one of us, sir. I've seen the movie Spaceballs. I get your reference. I'm just kidding.
Right, but if you have, but there's something about good guys who have the right mindset, who have been part of a team, and who are willing to work together for a cause or for a reason, even if it's a wrong reason. But you're still working together, kind of thing, and you have that camaraderie, which right now in the U.S. that's about the only way you get it, And so that's really kind of like the people you bring on in your audience, is they have that understanding of brotherhood that is really missing in society.
And you know how we engulf that brotherhood? So how we keep saying Joes and Josephines, guys and girls, I'm not trying to leave anybody out of our conversation that go into tough situations. Well, they listen to us as well. And some of these people are young kids, young adults who never could join the military, who have like asthma or some other type of issue that stopped them and prevented them from ever being a part of that. But I know that. And so therefore, I'm cool with bringing them into that circle through this show. And they can listen and they can be a part of it. And they reach out to me and they're like, and then you got the hard guys and gals who have been there and done that, seen war at its ultimate worsts, right? Lived through something, the only survivor of something I've had interviews of. And then they're just like, war is just not what we want. You don't want that. And so I hear from them, I hear from the others, and then I just kind of like, soak it up like a sponge. And I'm just putting that out there. I just still try to do what my mom and dad taught me to do. And that is, have you done any good in the world today? Have you helped anyone in need? That's kind of what they always taught me. And so I kind of just roll off that.
Well, it's working for me. At least for today.
Yeah, no, and cut. Scene. All right, I'm in my trailer. Where's my latte? No, I just love that, I'm a journalist. I like to say that. And when I get people on the show, I think that they don't know what direction it's going to go. And that's why I warn everybody at the beginning. It's the internet. What we say stays. So, I love having these conversations. And you've been a very delightful person to have on, talking about a very serious topic of humanity. And I love that you are about the humanity. And I want that also. I want my listener to walk away saying, there's hope. We need to have humanity.
But yeah, and also there are some things worth fighting for.
100%. And I'm not disagreeing with that. You know, I'm not just saying lay over and roll over. No, I don't think I would.
I'll kind of, I don't know if I guess we're finishing up, but I'll finish on what got me into this whole thing. You mentioned at the beginning that my father survived the Holocaust.
That's right.
My family survived. Many of them were killed. He's from this area in Ukraine, which is one of the things in my family. His grandparents were. My grandfather was deported by the Soviets into Russia, and his mother went there, was deported, and sister, and they never came back. They died in Kazakhstan. They had a business in this area, and it was taken over by the Soviets. So they ended up pretty much in the same situation but it was worse being Holocaust survivors. It's a whole different story.
100%.
But the basic concept, what motivates me still, is that I know, because it happened to my family, it happened literally to my father, that what the outcome can be. And what saved him was one guy and his parents. He was the mayor of what's now Chernivtsi, who basically saved a few Jews, put his neck out to do it, and that's the only reason I'm alive. And my my children and everything after us is because of this one man. And I feel it's, sometimes you can't just sit back. It's not the right thing to do. And so it's really, I feel I go to the front, or I go just anywhere in this country, because somebody's got to do it. It's, otherwise I'm really paying back is how I see it with what I can do.
Love that, bro. Love that for you. I love that. And I'm going to let that be your mission. And I always try to explain to people around me that, you had a badass who fought through so much to make sure that you're here today.
Yes.
Somebody lived through all of these things in the world's history, of the Genghis Khans, of the Peters the Great, all these people who ruled the world, and somehow your soul is here today because somebody was hard and fought through all of that to make sure that you're here today. So I can only be the best steward of what is put in front of me, just like you. And so, bless your family, bless to your parents, to your grandparents, to your grandparents' grandparents, and so on.
Yeah, well, more power to you. If this message gets out to more people, your message,
yes,
then it'll be a better world. At least what you can make is better neighborhood. You have your buddies.
Correct. Exactly. Love your buddies. And again, tough topic to try to have a joke in there about, but I can't help who I am. And, the Steel Porcupine, please, my viewer, listener, please go check out the Steel Porcupine. Again, you can go to, I believe it's Heartcast.
Look, you can go to thesteelporcupine.com. That's us, actually.
Yeah, the Steel Porcupine, right. Heartcast is your agent or your publicist, but you can go to thesteelporcupine.com, and you can go check out, is it To The Zero Line?
ToTheZeroLine.com.
And just check it out.
Yeah.
And if you like it, leave a comment wherever you watch it. Let the director, the filmmaker, know what you thought of the project. I'm sure he would love to read any comment that you have. Share that with a friend. That's what social media is all about. Just hit the share button and share it all around. And if my message could reach one person, it's by sharing it. So go ahead and share this if you like this conversation. If you have a comment about this conversation, just type it on down below. I try to reply to everybody and give you real feedback from me. I'm real, just like Ben's real. So we're here to just be who we are, bro, and you can too.
Well, thank you, Rad, for being so real. I really enjoy your vibe. I got a good
Hey,
vibe.
thank you. Thank you so
Thanks.
much, and Benjamin, for going into hard places and talking about hard things and living through hard things and, being also a very nice, soft-spoken person. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day today and moving forward. And again, you're welcome back on the show to talk about anything like, oh, hey, Rad, I forgot we could talk an hour about this. Well, then you just hit me up. You have my contact. We would love to have you back, okay? So please come back onto our show.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Rad. And
Hey,
anytime you're in my neighborhood, I can have a beer or anything else you want with you.
That sounds good to me. A beer and a pizza and a video game, and we'll just talk.
Now you'll beat me at the video game, though. But go
How
for it.
funny. How funny.
right.
How funny.
Okay.
Well, listen, now on behalf of Benjamin Goldhagen and myself, Rad, here at SOFREP, and also my main man, Brandon Webb, who runs the show and helps make sure that everybody is watching this and it's being reached everywhere. Thank you, producer Callum, and everybody on the back end. All of my sponsors, I love you guys a lot. You guys keep us going, so please keep that up. And again, this is Rad on behalf of Benjamin saying peace.
You've been listening to SOFREP Radio.